a bacon, sausage, egg, and cheese, cheddar, of course, on a roll with mayonnaise and ketchup. 2002, 10th grade. That was my order every day. And I would show up to English, first period, not really ready to learn, probably more to goof off, but I always had the breakfast of champions.
Tell me more.
That was my breakfast. And everybody did it. Everybody showed up to class ready to eat breakfast and not really learn in first period English, but it's what we did. But for some reason, my English teacher, Mr. Lowenthal, singled me out. And he said, if you are going to eat in my class, then you have to join the debate team. To me, felt like a fair trade. On top of that, he offered extra credit. And I wasn't the best student, so any opportunity for easy extra credit, I jumped on. See, in reality, Mr. Lowenthal saw something in me. He saw maybe some innate gift or talent or something special that needed to be nurtured, and he used the debate team as a vehicle to do it. And because of that, I am using skills that I learned back then, almost 25 years later. How to formulate an argument, how to speak in public, empathy, how to understand other people. Even me talking down the barrel of my camera right now, this is something I learned back then. Joining the debate team was one of those life-changing moments. I'm talking about those sliding door moments that we really only get one or two of every decade, but they kind of set the course for so much more in your life. And that's because my 10th grade English teacher, Mr. Lowenthal, saw something. But he wasn't the only one. I think back to the 4th grade, to Miss Norton. Miss Norton was the first teacher I had who I could really say believed in me. So I was in the gifted class, kindergarten through 3rd grade. And I guess I was smart for something, but my 3rd grade teacher was really annoyed by me. I didn't really talk a lot at home. School was my place to talk. And I would finish my work really quickly. And I didn't know if, it's because the work wasn't challenging enough or whatever. I would finish my work quickly and then I would start talking. I would get in trouble for that all the time. My report cards all said the same thing. CJ's a really smart kid, but he rushes through his work and he talks too much. Okay. So instead of giving me extra work or something else to do, my 3rd grade teacher, Miss Jones, got upset and just kicked me out the class. And she put me into Miss Ellis's class. And Miss Ellis, if Miss Jones was mean, Miss Ellis was meaner. She was the epitome of mean. And so I get to the 4th grade and Miss Norton sees me and she says, you don't belong here. You should be in the gifted class. And Miss Norton would give me extra work. She would take time, but she would also speak words of encouragement to me, words of affirmation. She would say things like, CJ, you are going to go far in life. CJ, there's something special in you. There's gifts and abilities and talents. And my job for the year that I have you is to help nurture and develop them. Miss Norton was my first advocate. When it came time to promote me to the 5th grade and my school was like, well, he already got pushed out of the gifted class. Why would we put them back in? Miss Norton was the one who went to bat for me. And I can tell you that as a 9-year-old kid who didn't feel like he had a lot of advocates in life, to have that one woman be there meant a lot. And then I think about Miss Choma. Miss Choma was my everything teacher in high school. If there was any class, history or social studies related, it was Miss Choma who taught it. And Miss Choma, again, same thing, very motherly and tenderly. And Miss Choma, unfortunately, passed away too early. But Miss Choma would always be on my back. Always. I wanted to be a journalism major and my mom said no. And it was Miss Choma who looked at me and said, hey, you're taking my econ class and you're pretty good at this stuff. And I think you can marry those two worlds and you should do that. Miss Choma was always keeping me on the straight and narrow, correcting me, loving me. And Miss Choma offered some very embarrassing moments for me quite a few times throughout high school because we had that kind of relationship. And there was one moment in particular, if you went to high school with me and you're watching this and you were in that class on that day, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But Miss Choma showed me what it looked like for an adult to care for you, to love you, and to invest in you, and to care enough that they will call you out on your mess for your good. I think of Ian and Marcel, these two leaders from the church that I grew up in. They would take the time to pull me aside and talk to me about life and the decisions that I was making, things that they would see in me. Ian in particular would speak these words of encouragement about who I am as a man, because Ian knew my home life. He knew the turmoil that I was surrounded by, and he said, hey, I got your back. If there's anything you need. We need people like that. I'm a firm believer that none of us get through this life alone. We just don't. We are the product of people, places, things, events. We're the product of our environments, but the people who invest in us help us to get to the next level. If there's one massive cultural shift that I've noticed over the last 15 years or so, it's that we grew up with adults. See, there was a time where if I wanted to talk to my friends, I would have to call their home and I would say, hey, Mr. James, is Bryce home? Yeah, everything's good, Mr. James. How you doing? Like we had to kind of have those awkward 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute interactions with them. Kids today, or I would say Gen Z, in those formative years, they were handed smartphones. And now that direct access to their friends was available, they no longer had to talk to adults. And the thing about those little interactions is that they help build rapport. Those little interactions let you know that there were adults in the room. And sometimes those adults care. And those adults would remember things. Oh, hey, CJ, how'd that math test go? Oh, hey, CJ, you still playing that sport? Like it's those little things, those little ways in which members of our communities and our friends' parents would help offer guidance. But over the last 15, 20 years or so, we had an entire generation grow up where, whether it was intentional or unintentional, those interactions were taken away. Because Gen Z spent much of their formative years online, that meant that they were disconnected from adults. And that meant that they were retreating as social media became a thing, further and further into their friends and into their silos. One of the things I say all the time is that if you are 16 years old, the worst place for you to be is with a bunch of other 16-year-olds. That when life hits the fan and things are hard and you're frustrated, how are they going to lead you out of what they've never been through themselves? But I say that fully recognizing the same thing for myself at 37. The worst place for me to be is with a bunch of other 37-year-olds. It's the blind leading the blind. We're all thinking Chicken Little, the sky is falling. In my moments of deep frustration, it's my friends in their 40s and 50s who pull me out, who say, CJ, it's gonna be okay. We've walked through this, we've lived this. I got you. It's the people who are slightly ahead of you or even further ahead of you who are in the best position to speak to where you are today. But the people who are in the exact same space as you, you're all just trying to figure it out. But here's the thing. The majority of Gen Z are not teens anymore. The youngest members of Gen Z right now, they're 15, but the oldest are 30. They're adults who need help. Listen, I recognize that I am who I am, and I am where I am because of the people who have invested in me. Because of the people who saw something in me, who saw some talent, some gift, some ability, and they said, CJ, I want to help you get to where you need to go. I think about my first job out of college. I think about Nathan. My first job was in finance, first bank I worked at. Nathan was an older black guy who pulled me aside and said, hey, let me help you out here. Because you are one of 5 of us here, and I'm from where you're from. I know you don't know the way to dress. I know you don't know the lingo. I know you don't know the social interactions and how they're supposed to go. Because every man in my family worked in construction. So I was walking into uncharted territory and I needed help, and Nathan showed up and he helped. I think about my last job in finance. There's a guy named Tim who on my second day said, hey, I'm taking you to lunch on Friday, and I'm gonna give you the ropes on how to survive in this bank because they are not good to us here. We need those people. We need that level of investment. I think about Marquita, who you might remember from a previous episode. Maybe I'll link it here if I can remember how that works. Marquita, who saw me frustrated and struggling in finance and knew that I was looking to get out of the industry, said, hey, you're gonna take over my job and you're gonna run this program. I had never done that before, but she saw something and she believed in me. You see, we need to bring the same level of energy and the same mentality to Gen Z. Because as much as we love a good bootstrap story, a good self-made story, the truth is none of us get to where we are by ourselves. There are two really great books on this. Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell and The Tyranny of Merit by Michael J. Sandel. See, both of these books dispel the myth of the self-made person. They dispel the myth that we got to where we are simply by hard work and grit. In reality, there are people, there are opportunities, and there are places that are presented before us or advantages that we are given that get us to where we are. None of us choose where we are born. None of us choose what gifts we may or may not have. And so if we can recognize that about ourselves, then what does it look like for us to turn around and provide what we have to those who are lacking? Any sociologist right now will tell you that we're in a loneliness epidemic. And it's really hitting Gen Z the hardest. But not only are they isolated from each other as they spend so much time online, they're isolated from their predecessors. And I actually believe that this is one of the largest contributing factors to the generational anxiety and frustration that they feel. Because Gen Z grew up in a time full of filters and facades. They grew up spending their formative years comparing their behind-the-scenes footage to everyone else's highlight reel, to watching what looked like finished, happy products while they sat inside struggling. And because they were isolated from their predecessors, from previous generations, they didn't have older people in their lives to tell them, hey, life's not like that. Hey, life's a lot harder. Hey, you're not just going to have it all figured out. Oh, I struggled for years. I didn't just land here. And so now Gen Z at 30 years old find themselves frustrated with life, frustrated with where they are, wondering why their lives don't look like the perfect social media image that really entails the 0.2% of the population. There's no roadmap to life. There's no handbook, no guidebook. There's a million self-help books out there, but even those are not enough. We don't figure this thing out in isolation. And if what we're doing is looking further into our phones and into the algorithms to tell us who we are, it just breeds distortion. Isolation always breeds distortion. We need people outside of ourselves to speak truth to us about who we are, especially when the fears start becoming too loud. Especially when the anxious thoughts start to drown out all rationality. We need people who speak truth to us, to quell our fears, to help us in the hard moments. I've got a friend who, he's in his 50s, he's got 3 sons, and as each one of them turns 13, he does a manhood ceremony for them. See, every culture historically has had a period or a ceremony, a ritual in which they transitioned their kids from kids to adults. See, adolescence is a creation of the last 150 years, which could be a whole other video for another day. But in this ceremony, as they transition from boys to men, it closes with a bunch of adult men speaking to them about who they are, about what they've seen in them, about what they believe they can accomplish, encouraging and affirming them. And there is a beauty in that. To not let a bunch of other 13-year-olds tell them who they are, but to let adults in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s say, I see this in you. I know what your future can be. And I am here to help you along the path of life. It's beautiful. There's a whole lot of goodness in that. We need older, wiser people to speak truth into our lives. And you know what? We don't outgrow that. As I'm nearing my 38th birthday and I'm pushing 40, I recognize now more than ever, especially in the last 3 years, how much the words of faithful friends in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and my grandmother in her 80s has helped get me to where I am today. Gen Z needs this. We don't get to where we are without some help along the way. Gen Z is lost, and I think on some level they recognize that. They feel it. It's more than the social contracts being broken. There is an innate sense in them that things are not the way they're supposed to be. It's our job, as the older ones in the room, to help guide them, to give them what we've had. Any of us who have achieved any level of success in this life, if we're honest, we can say that it's not because of us alone. It's because of people who helped us and poured into us and loved us. The biggest mistake we made with Gen Z was letting unfettered, unregulated access to the internet shape them and form them. Jonathan Haidt was right. They were overprotected outside and underprotected online. And that was not without consequence, because now they're adults who need help, and I think we should give it. Now, I know you might be watching this and thinking to yourself, CJ, I hear you, but I got all my own stuff going on. I don't have time to pour into anyone else or to care about this kid that is not mine. Cool. But you didn't get here by yourself. And I'm going to guess that there were people, adults in your life, who were not your parents. That there were people in your life at work who were your colleagues who had all their own stuff going on, but still took time for you. Don't be selfish now. Life is about more than you. There's a whole generation that needs our help, and we can give it. And I think we will all be better for it, because 20 years from now, that's the generation that's going to be making the decisions. Do we want a lost generation to be the one making all of the decisions because we didn't take the time to prepare them and help them and grow them up? This isn't just some roll of the dice. This is a choice that we have to make. But hey, what do I know? I'm just some guy from Brooklyn.